I have a small business as well. We are just growing right now, and what we do is we help brands create cultural brand equity. And so I'm going to get into a bit about what that is, a little bit of my backstory. In my early 20s, I started a temporary staffing agency. We built it up to about 85 employees. Really didn't like the business, so my co-founder and I stopped doing it. Ended up traveling for a little bit, and then came back, got into the tech world, launched an e-commerce company. It was featured on Tim Ferriss's website, so I'm sure you probably everyone in the tech world knows who he is. The e-commerce is still going, and I'm launching a couple more of those. But what I ended up doing in about now it's 8 years ago, 10 years ago, my goodness. What I ended up doing is I ended up starting working for advertising and marketing agencies and sales. And I was very quickly promoted to a managing director. So I've done a lot of hiring and training, and actually ended up training 5 of the top managers in the company for North America, and one of the longest standing managing directors who's also been the most profitable. So hiring and culture and training is something that I've been doing for quite a while. And so getting back to cultural brand equity and how you can leverage social and digital to do it, this is what I'm really starting to do right now for tech companies. So mid-sized tech companies, typically we're looking at 80 to 300 employees. They have a specific amount of turnaround, and if they're growing, they're having challenges finding the right types of developers and designers, which a lot of tech startups are also having problems with, right? And so what we do is we go in there and we say, okay, how do you create cultural brand equity? How do you actually attract talent and keep talent, like you were mentioning before, without competing on things like salary or benefits or all of these other things that, hey, I'm not a Shopify, I can't offer 120K and 10 weeks vacation and all sorts of things, right? The interesting part about it is that stuff doesn't really matter as much as people think it does. So of course, if you're looking for a senior developer, there's going to be a baseline type of package that you've got to offer, but that can actually fluctuate a lot more than people think. And then when we go down the scale to more junior developers, social media managers, marketing assistants, all of these people, it's really not about the money. And case in point, I was one of the founding directors for Toronto Men's Fashion Week, which is not to be confused with Fashion Week that shut down. So Toronto Men's Fashion Week is one of the fastest growing men's fashion weeks in the world.
And just happened recently.
Yes, it just happened a couple weeks ago.
Walked in the show. She was the first.
Nice. Yeah.
You're still involved with it or no?
Yeah, I actually have segued out of it, but yeah. So I did the first 4 seasons of that, and to put that in perspective, that entire thing was created from volunteers, and the entire thing, myself included, volunteered. All the directors volunteered. Nobody got paid. So in terms of creating cultural brand equity and attracting the right talent, this is something that you can do, and it's really not about the money or the benefits and the salary, right? So I think the question is, what is cultural brand equity, and why is that really important? We've all been in situations before, whether we've hired somebody or whether we've worked for somebody, where we can tell if it's a good fit, right? Like if you've worked ever in your life, when you have a good manager versus a bad manager. When you're in a good corporate culture versus when you're in a totally shitty corporate culture. And then on the other side of the table, as entrepreneurs and as startups, we know when we find the right fit for any position that we're hiring, and when we hire somebody who is not quite the right fit and we find out down the road, we also know very quickly this is not the right fit. So in both cases, fit is a very important thing. And so cultural brand equity is this concept, this idea of how do you infuse your culture into your message, into your social media, into your content, into the way you interview, into everything, so that you can attract the right talent and filter out the bad talent, okay? Everyone with me so far? Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Cool. So how we do this is you first have to align, I think, yourself with, like Simon Sinek talks about it. Is everyone familiar with Simon Sinek? Yeah. Why you're doing what you're doing. And if that's not clear, then when you communicate your message to someone else, it's going to be really challenging to get that person to follow you as a leader, to follow you as a startup, with maybe lower pay or not as great benefits, if you don't have a really clear purpose and vision behind what you're doing. Now, if you do have that, you 100% should be communicating that. And that should 100% be in things like your values. Like, I don't know if you have thought about your values, or if you've thought about, what you really stand for and how you want your corporate culture to be. Even if you're just one person, like you need to know, hey, this is what I represent, this is what I like, and this is how I want to build my company. From there, you can propagate that outwards. And so pushing that out, I think, happens in your voice, happens in the way you write your job descriptions, happens in where you actually post your job descriptions, happens in the communities that you connect with. It happens with the social media that you're putting out, from the tweets to the Facebook statuses to the content that you're writing. All of this has to be infused with your purpose, your values, and then you can start attracting the right talent. So when you then post a job up, or when you then reach out to your network, the right people will read that and see that that's aligned with what they want to do, and they'll apply to your positions. And again, going back to something like Toronto Men's Fashion Week, I worked 30 hours a week for free. When I could have easily, making 6 figures a year, I could have easily made a ton of cash from doing something like that. But I did it because the vision and the purpose and the cultural brand equity was there so strongly that myself and a team of about 18 professionals, we're talking directors of multi-million-dollar companies, everybody's working for free to push forward this vision. And I think if we do that as startups, then you can start to really attract the right people. So that's the idea behind cultural brand equity. Now, I think leveraging social and leveraging content is the best way to do that. It's how do you build engagement with the right communities that you're targeting. So you're looking to target social media, marketing, etc. Who are you looking to really pull into your company, or are you not at that point yet?
We just hired 2 months ago, and I had hired previously. So I've had one poor hire and one excellent hire so far. So we're not looking to hire again right now, but
okay.
It makes sense we're gonna grow, so it makes sense to build our brand equity now.
Yeah, absolutely, okay.
What
And
position?
what this is supposed to ask.
So our first hire was a part-time business development manager,
Yeah.
but she was also a physiotherapist. And she's pretty much done now. And the second hire the position was growth marketing, but his position's changed really more to UX and UI for us right now.
Okay.
And he's fantastic.
Great. And the next potential,
After that,
yeah,
I don't know.
not sure yet?
Yeah,
Just
not
waiting
sure.
to
Maybe
see
sales.
how the business goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
sales. And sales is another area that is really competitive, and B, good. When you create cultural brand equity and when you're talking about it, you start to get passive candidates, which is exactly what you want. Is everyone familiar with what that means? Yeah? Okay. No? Okay, so passive candidates are the people who are already working, they're already good at where they are, and they're kind of not really interested in going somewhere else unless the right opportunity comes up. And those are the people, and we've been in those situations before where you're like, yeah, I'm making good money, like I'm pretty happy here, but I'm kind of bored. I've been here for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 6 months. I feel like I'm stuck, or I know there's not really much further for me to go. I would love to find a new opportunity, but I'm not really looking. That's a passive candidate, and when you can start attracting those people, those are the best people that come. Versus, and it's not to say that all active candidates are quote unquote bad, they're not, but versus the person who's like, holy shit, I've been out of a job for 6 months, I need to find something, I'll take anything, like, what do you have? You don't want that person, right? And it doesn't matter where on the scale you're hiring, from co-founders, C-levels, directors, VPs, all the way down, managers, senior level, all the way down to junior people. If you can find passive candidates, that's the best. But passive candidates are not on job boards. They're not looking for work. They're looking at content. They're looking at culture. They're looking at challenging problems. They're looking at growth from an internal perspective. They're looking at how can I become better as a person? How can I advance my personal gains, my career? And who's talking about that? Who's actually doing that? What company looks like it might give me that opportunity? And if you're not saying anything about all of that, you're off the radar, and they're not even looking at you, right? So to me, that goes back to something that you were talking about, which is taking people and fitting them in somewhere. I personally would really recommend not doing that, because it costs you a lot of money. And I've done some analysis with some of the clients that I work with, one in particular, where we looked at time to hire and how much money you lose, even on a daily basis. If you want to take a very basic calculation, and how long is your job posting open versus how much revenue per employee do you make, that's money that you're losing the longer that position is open. But with that being said, doesn't mean you should just put anyone in there, because, right. Then you look at the cost of having that employee in that position, and then the rehiring of somebody, plus the cost of your time. It's like thousands and thousands of dollars to just fit somebody in, right?
Yeah, not only that particular case, because she did not put in her weight, my good people have to put in the weight. It's poison. It's
Right.
a poison. It's like cancer in that company. But we are not.
I think that's, I don't know if it is just a female founder versus male founder quality. I think I've been in those positions too, and it's actually cost me a lot, where and this is years ago, where I've hired people because I wanted to be nice and help them, and fix the broken person and turn them into a superstar. It never works. Just don't do it. And I think to what you were saying again before, it's like, if you have a very strong culture, you will start to filter out people like this in the first place, and you have to be ruthless about keeping that culture the way it is. I don't know if you've watched Gary Vee's stuff, but he talks about how he's a dictator about corporate culture, because it affects so many things. Like, if you have that one person, like you said, the words you use, poison, cancer, like, it completely changes your team. And we really can't let that happen. I would recommend everyone check out the Steam handbook. I don't know if you've taken a look at it. So Steam is a company, a video game company. Yeah, and they've got their handbook is online. You can download it right now. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. It's like super big in Silicon Valley. It follows a holacracy type of management method, which is great if you have very talented people. Does everyone know what holacracy is?
No.
Okay, so just from a very general perspective, I would also recommend checking that out. But again, only implement that when you have really kick-ass team members. So holacracy is basically, there are almost no managers. So you hire talent and you say, where can you provide value? Like, what are you good at? Just go and do it. Make it, like, help our company take off. You form your own groups around projects, not around, hey, I'm a marketer, I'm the marketing team leading you, you're a designer, you're leading us. No, it's, hey, we have an activation, we need to get 50 clients in the next 2 months. Like, what can we do, right? How can you add value to it? And let's go on this project. Once that project's done, you might suggest a different project, and then we rally around you. But everyone judges which projects are going to be the most valuable. So
who takes the lead? Is it just someone takes the initiative?
Someone would just take the initiative on that project. So again, very difficult model to implement correctly, but there are very valuable tenets in that model. A company like Zappos implemented that. So Tony shared.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and he had a big, like, like big change because everyone's like, no, we don't like this, and like some of the top managers who are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, no, I want my team, and he's like, no, flatten the whole thing and change it. Anyways, going back to Steam. So Steam runs that kind of model. They've created a handbook that really talks about their corporate, and going back to what you were saying earlier on about how people come and take your stuff and leave, you know, talking about the difficulty of your job can really attract good people. I do this all the time. Like, this job is extremely hard. You're gonna hustle. You're gonna work way harder than you imagine. I'm not gonna pay you very much, but I'm gonna teach you all about how I run my business. I'm gonna teach you all about how to start one of these yourself if you really wanna do that. So it's like, okay, you can come and leave, but in that time where you're here, you're gonna give your all and you're gonna create a ton of value for me. And I'm okay with that. What inevitably ends up happening is people stay longer because they get addicted to like all that learning and that hustle and like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And if you have fun and you can still, you know, make people connect with each other and build friendships and all of these things, then I think more people are willing to stay, okay? Has anyone read the Ernest Shackleton job posting? Like I said, Ernest Shackleton was a guy from the late 1800s, an explorer, a gentleman, and he put a job posting in, I believe it was at the time the New York paper or something like that. And the job posting, you can pull it up, but it went something along the lines of looking for, again, context for time, like looking for exceptional men to go on dangerous journey, like death highly probable, you know, return not likely, you know, extremely long hours, no.
The experience I've run into, like, don't do this as a general advice. Two, is here's the best, like, this is the best thing. If you were going to do anything, do this type of stuff. I think for the rest of us, we can talk about what's next, right? What won't you do next? So we can commit to something, so the next time we meet, we can say, hey, have you done that? I just want us to be all accountable to each other, because I don't want this to be just like a nice, like, heart to heart, that's lovely, but I also want us to get results from this.
Yeah. I guess then if anyone has questions, I'll stick around for a little bit, we can chat. So I think man, there's so many things, so many things. I think that
You can talk about three guys.
the best advice is figure out your why and your big idea. Check out Oren Klaff. He talks about the big idea. It's very similar to Simon Sinek. And I would also recommend checking out Daniel Pink. He's got a TED Talk and he's got a book called Drive.
Oh, I love it. I just finished that.
I'm sorry?
What was the other one?
Oren Klaff. He talks about pitching. If you want to learn how to pitch really, really well,
Pitch Anything is his book.
yeah, Pitch Anything. It's a great book. He's got a course that you can buy online. I mean, you can also.
You guys have Audible, I can send you a free version of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that that's important, not for pitches and clients, but for recruiting. So for me, the most important things are getting your values, getting your why down, and communicating that. Like it's not no good, but it doesn't do you any justice when you know your why, you know your values, but you're not telling people that in the first interview. Like in the very first phone interview, in fact, in the job posting that I put out, I put that kind of stuff in there. Here's what we're all about, not here's what I'm doing as a agency or here's what I'm doing as an e-commerce company. No, it's here's what we're about. We're about hustle, we're about, you know, making good friends, we're about challenging topics. If you don't provide value, you're out. Like, it's just, that's how we run. And that's in my job posting. So then the people who apply right away are people who are like, okay, I've read it. And I always ask on the phone, have you read the job posting, like detailed, like very detailed? And most people have, because most people who send over an email, like I get massive like cover letters like, oh my God, read your job posting, love it, love the culture, totally ready to hustle, blah, blah, like all sorts of stuff, right? So values, get your why down, get your big idea down, and start talking about that right away. That's probably my biggest thing. Things that I've seen done poorly is not having alignment on that. So if you have a co-founder, if you have other directors that you work with, if you have investors, and they're not aligned on that direction, then there are challenges. And so one of the first things I typically do in larger companies is do like stakeholder interviews and align people into the vision. And it's mind-boggling to see that, you know, companies have been running for 3, 4, 5, 8 years, and directors who work together every day think totally different about where the company's going in the direction and the values. That's pretty bad. And then second, I would say, is not talking about it at all. Like not doing social about culture, not putting it in your job postings. Being afraid, I think, is the big thing. You know? What was the third question? I hope I was the question.
What are we going to do next? I don't think it applies to you because we meet on a monthly type of cadence.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that people know what they need to do in the next month. You know, this is what I commit to.
Yeah. In the next month, I would do the values, do your why, and then rewrite any kind of job postings if you're going to put them up that include or incorporate that. And it's not like, hey, I write it once and that's it for the rest of my startup. No, I think an agile process is very important. I don't know if everybody's familiar with agile development methods, where you basically come up with a core idea, you implement it, put it out into the market, get feedback on it, and then iterate. And so this happens in recruiting too, right? We put out a kind of message, we get 0 hits on it, we're like, okay, maybe auxiliary benefits of putting out cultural messaging is that clients connect with